Hello, public opinion aficionados, and welcome to Rasmussen Reports. And I thought that I would kick the week off with the most important poll, in my opinion, of the entire 2028 cycle. And this is something you're not going to hear from other pollsters. Maybe they'll actually poll this stuff, but then they'll just fire it over the fence and not give you any analysis. And quite frankly, the analysis is troubling. I think we can all feel deep down in our guts that America is screaming towards a cliff right now, driven by our fiscal irresponsibility and a complete lack of integrity and morals in government and basically every other institution as well. That's right, we are still on the path to a messy fourth turning. And as I look around, I see Donald Trump in the trenches fighting this out, but I don't think he has a lot of help right now. And who should be helping him? Well, that's obviously the Republican Party, who, in my opinion, Donald Trump dragged over the finish line last November. He gave the Republicans basically about a big a mandate as they're ever going to get to reform government, to fix our failing system, to return accountability to the American people and restore trust in our federal institutions. And although I think that Donald Trump is doing a pretty good job, about as good of a job as you can expect any one individual to do, although there are some things that I wish he would change, to be honest with you. I think we can all agree that Republicans are basically missing in action, and the polling shows that as well, as we've talked about time and time again. Now, people call me a black pillar, and fine. If you want the good news, it looks like that maybe Republicans might tactically pull out a small win in November of 2026. There's reasons to expect that. If you look at the generic ballot, the Democrats are only up about 2.5 points. It's increased from a 2 point lead since the shutdown started. And historically, this isn't as big as a lead as you'd expect the out of power party to have at this point in the cycle. And yeah, okay, Republicans might gerrymander up a few more seats, and maybe the sale of Dominion will have something to do with things as well. Maybe we'll get some Act Blue investigations and arrests. I don't really know. But at the end of the day, I'm talking about the strategic picture, and the strategic picture is bleak. The pendulum has swung very far in the direction of individualism, progressivism, non classic liberalism, socialism, corporatism, a lot of isms. And where would the pendulum swing back? Well, towards a more conservative viewpoint where people restore integrity and morals to governance, where people hold folks that have grifted too much accountable, where all of these people that have corrupted the institutions are dumped out on their rears, where people who hate our country, who are here taking advantage of the great things that we have, get shot over the border with a catapult. That's what the pendulum swinging back to the right would look like. And okay, again, Donald Trump is doing it. But where is everybody else? Where is the future of America where a Republican Party doesn't play ball like they need to be? Well, it's going to look something like this. New York City mayoral election 2025, latest polls. And depending on who you look at, Mamdani's winning by a lot to like a very a lot. And I think the polling, yeah, might lean a little bit too left here, but I think he's got a solid lead. Basically, it's between him and Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa siphoning off 16 points. I don't think Sliwa getting out of the race would really sort of do it here. I just don't see his people showing up and voting for Cuomo. He's a leftist. He has a lot of problems with COVID. And quite frankly, the people on the right calling for folks to do that just to bail out the left who refuses to acknowledge that Zoran Mamdani has some problems, like is probably not on the whole a very good thing. And my personal opinion is that New York probably has to suffer this guy, but yeah, he's an open, basically communist, and he's going to do all these things that are, we all know historically don't work. But explain this phenomenon. Why is he winning? Why does it appear like he is the darling of the left and the future of the Democrat Party? Well, it's because the right isn't competing on the same battlefield. This out of our friend David Gillio, running for Congress out in California. Like it or not, Mamdani is winning, not just because New York City has been invaded by foreigners, pretty true, but also because he's talking about everyday issues like childcare, housing, cost of living, etc., while Cuomo is doing Israel first rallies. Yeah, not a good look. Voters don't care. Many don't realize that his far left policies are fiscally impossible, would raise prices, and will only exacerbate problems, not solve them. Well, I think a lot of them probably fundamentally do know that, but he is out there taking swings at the fences, like promising very bold things and aggressive action, And that's not what Republicans are offering right now. It just isn't. They will always gravitate towards the candidate who actually talks about these types of things. That is why I've been screaming about the need for the Republican Party to fully and genuinely embrace America First conservative populism instead of pretending to. That's right. They pretend to. They're basically just cynically following along Donald Trump, taking advantage of his movement. Pretty gross. Voters are not stupid. They can smell BS from a mile away, and actions always speak louder than words. Populism is not fading. America's thirst for it will only strengthen. Americans want systematic change, the type of change that traditional Republicans cannot deliver. And I will add, will not deliver because of who their donors are and have been. They are completely captive by big business interests who want to concentrate wealth and power at the top. That's the Republican Party. Either American conservatives and the GOP accept this and embrace it, or populism is going to come to the United States in the destructive form of radical leftism. That is right. If the Republicans can't solve this problem the right way, the Democrats are going to solve it, and you're not going to like their solution. Why? Because it's probably not going to be capitalism. And, this is Gallup, if you don't want to believe Rasmussen numbers, and they track positive views of capitalism versus socialism. Socialism's not exactly climbing up, but capitalism is certainly climbing down, especially with the 18 to 39-year-olds like our polling showed. These people are not capitalists. They think the system has failed them, and they want to burn it down. You can go check out our prior video on this topic. Now, again, our polling shows that ideologically, Americans still are capitalist, but they want drastic action, and they aren't going to be held within ideological guidelines when it comes to voting. This is just out of May of 2025. It was done with the Heartland Institute, so it's a sponsored poll. You can go get this at our website, rasmussenreports.com. Please sign up to be a paid reader subscriber there while you're at it to support us, because the Republican Party certainly isn't freaking supporting us. Which of the following do you think is better? A free market economic system or socialism? And free market economic system still wins 71 to 12. Only 12% support socialism. But do we really have a free market system? I think that's important to note. Women still support it, but less than men. And only 55% of 18 to 29-year-olds support free market economics. 17% support socialism. But when they see a Democrat socialist candidate that supports a lot of the things that they think they need, they're going to vote for him. That's the problem. As the 18 to 39-year-olds said, they said they would vote for a Democratic socialist president, even though they think capitalism is better. Even the Democrats say capitalism is better, 67% to only 15%. And independents are right where Democrats are, 65% to 14%. So overwhelmingly, people still say that free market capitalism is the way to go. But they're not voting Republican, and so they don't think they want the Republican form of free market capitalism. That's the only conclusion that I can draw. Yeah, here it is. The next presidential election is in 2028. Would you like to see a Democrat socialist candidate win the next presidential election? Only 31% say yes, 46% say no, but it isn't 50% who say no, and a lot of people are still not sure. But look at the 18 to 29s. They say, yeah, Democrat socialism, that sounds pretty great, 50% to 30%. And so they like capitalism when it comes down to just picking or choosing the ideology, but they don't trust the Republican Party at all to deliver on it. And even the 30 to 39-year-olds are basically split on this one, even though they're more conservative than the 18 to 29s. Even the 40 to 49s, who are basically the most conservative age bracket, 38 to 38, pretty freaking wild. Only 56% of Democrats support a Democrat socialist, 27% punt on this question by answering not sure. And obviously the independents surprisingly say no, 42% to 23%. But Republicans, 13% of them are still supporting a Democrat socialist. Pretty wild. Now, if you want a really great example specifically about how the Republican Party is co-opted by big business interests, go check this video out. It's a live stream. We cover a really great article from The Guardian that talks about how Big Soda basically used a whole bunch of conservative and Republican lobbyists and interest groups and researchers to use the Republican Party against the Republican Party to shut down Republican legislature by going to Republican governors to get bills killed that would remove soda from SNAP benefits. That's right. The Republican Party is the party of corporate welfare. And of globalism, don't forget. The reason we're in this situation is specifically because the Republican Party's ties to big business and the donors who just wanted unfettered globalism. And that's why you don't have any high paying jobs. I mean, these problems have an easy fix. If they want to appeal to Gen Z, they could just get rid of all 2.6 million temporary workers here on visas, many of whom hold really high paying jobs. And that $350 billion of annual economic benefit would move on to the Zoomers while also allowing them to afford houses because 2.6 million fewer people are here. Things like groceries would be cheaper, a lot less people competing for the goods. There would be a lot less burden on our welfare systems for sure, but also our healthcare systems. Costs of healthcare would go down. Why aren't we doing that? Why? Because the Republican Party is trying to cut amnesty deals behind closed doors and increase the number of people here working on visas. They're the party of immigration because they're the party of big business and reduced labor cost. And what we're finding out is that the H-1B program and all these temporary high paid visas are a way to skirt the high costs of insurance due to the Republicans not killing Obamacare when they had a chance, hiring from an unending well of single 25-year-old somethings from India who cost a lot less, even though they still get paid a lot of salary, who cost a lot less than somebody in their mid 30s with a couple children and a spouse. But here is the poll that I think is the most important poll of 2028. I hope that every Republican prints this out and hangs it on the wall in their office on Capitol Hill. You can't run away from this. And obviously, there's a lot of reasons Americans overwhelmingly support Republicans on issues like the border. Republicans have a pretty big lead on that issue. Less of a lead, but still a lead on issues of like the economy, because they know that Democrats are big spenders and will run the country into the gutter. But things like drain the swamp. We talked about that a lot. 67% of Americans want to drain the swamp, and they know that Donald Trump is trying to make the Republicans do that. But one of the ones that doesn't get a lot of attention is that 67% of America also wanted to end corporate welfare. And again, the Republican Party is the party of corporate welfare. Let's not forget, everybody is talking about SNAP benefits this week. 25% of all SNAP benefits go to Walmart. 25%. And I bet you they have a pretty powerful lobby. You know, they're headquartered in the red state after all as well. But let's just go through this polling. Generally speaking, how fair is the US economy today? Only 18% say very fair, only 12% of 18 to 29-year-olds. And the reason that this 18% very fair and 24% somewhat fair for a combined total of 42%, the reason it's as high as it is because Republicans are overwhelmingly bringing this number up because their party is in power. 64% of Republicans think the economy is fair, but only 28% of them say very fair. Everybody else, super low numbers of very fair. The economy is not fair to people. 33% of women say it's not fair at all. Bad numbers. But this is the big question. And you can argue with how we define economic populism, but I'll get into it in a second, why the way we worded this is very important. Economic populism is a political and economic approach that emphasizes growth and income distribution. Notice I have income distribution in there. We're talking about taking people's money and giving it to other folks, often opposing the perceived elites in favor of the interests of the common people. Do you agree or disagree that America needs more economic populism? Again, we could have defined it many ways, but we wanted to make it very clear we're talking about taking money and power from the people at the top and giving it to the people at the bottom. And Americans are like, yep, we're here for it. 58% of America agrees, 32% strongly, only 27% disagree, only 13% strongly disagree. Men agree, women agree, everybody of every age group agrees. Even 51% of boomers agree with that. White voters agree, black voters agree, even Hispanics, everybody agrees. Democrats, it is 67%, two-thirds of Democrats, only 21% of Democrats disagree, only 10% strongly. But also Republicans, 56% agree, 28% strongly, only 27% disagree. Only 13% of Republicans strongly disagree that America needs to take money from the powerful and give it to the common people. 50% of independents agree, only 23% of independents, only 33% of independents disagree. So it's bipartisan. Everybody's like, you know, this hasn't really worked. We like capitalism. We think it's better than socialism. Maybe what we have isn't capitalism, though, but I don't really care. It's broken and it needs to be fixed. And the only way we know to fix it is to go after the elites. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. Even though the Republican Party has Donald Trump, they have not been able to shake the view that they are still the country club folks. Which party is the party of economic populism? Democrats, 46%, Republicans, only 26%. Now, a lot of people are not sure, but that's because traditionally politics has been about liberal versus conservative. I don't even know what those words mean anymore. And I think people are probably confused as well. But we're going to be talking a lot more about this. And I think that this explains why a lot of people on the left, even though they say they don't like socialism, are totally fine voting for Mamdani. Now, obviously, I think a lot of people are voting for Mamdani because they know it pisses off the right and because they worship DEI and all that other stuff. But at the end of the day, I think they're going to increasingly vote for people who talk about restoring their economic abundance on the kitchen table by going after the powerful and wealthy. And that's a problem when on the right, your donors are the powerful and wealthy. That is the problem. Men say Democrats 46 to 30, women say Democrats 47 to 22. What's interesting is 18 to 29-year-olds are most split. Democrats only win by plus 2 points. So that means maybe there's an opportunity for Republicans to convince these people that they're the party of economic populism. How could you do that? Oh, I don't know. Get rid of 2.6 million temporary workers. That would be a good start. But look at this. Democrats win with every other bracket. Even the 65 and olders say that Democrats are the party of economic populism, 51 to 20. And 51% of them agree that we need more economic populism. Only 30% of 65 and older say no. Donald Trump's been railing about this, bringing back manufacturing, holding China accountable. He's been railing about this. No tax on tips, cutting corporate taxes to spur hiring. And yet the Republicans are not getting credit. Democrats say Democrats 65 to 15. Republicans only say Republicans by 46 to 31. But notice they are saying, well, it is our party by more. They know it's something their party needs. Conservatives are split 39 to 39. Independents say Democrats by a lot here. So, I mean, seriously, look, everybody by income signal says Democrats, by education, pretty much. Even Trump's strong approvers, Republicans only 43 to 34. So here's the problem the Republicans face. Their platform is irrelevant now. Largely, conservative ideals, in my opinion, have become luxury beliefs. They can talk a big game about corporate tax cuts and deregulation, but people haven't necessarily seen those benefits trickle down. In fact, it seems like more taxpayer money has trickled up. And I don't think that your traditional Washington, D.C. approaches of massive stimulus bills or coming together in big projects in order to fix this, all that stuff goes to private equity and people who are connected. It's just one big fat gravy train. And so government doesn't work for the people. It doesn't at all. And people tried to vote for Republicans to fix it. And Donald Trump's trying, but it looks like the Republicans aren't going to be able to do this. And so unless they change, in my opinion, they're going to be like the vestigial tail of politics. They're there, but they don't really do anything. And that's when you get a whole lot of people voting for folks that you probably don't like who are going to do things to America that are less than beneficial. And what happens in that scenario, I don't know. I think Americans are still that proverbial frog in a pot of water that is getting hotter and hotter and hotter. And as the Democrats gain more control by being the only ones willing to actually call out the elites, then the water is just going to get hotter. And eventually either the frog dies or it takes drastic action that we probably don't want to see. If you agree, please like the video and subscribe. Nobody's out there supporting this kind of research. I can tell you absolutely they are not. And so sign up for our free daily newsletter if you want to support us at rasmussenreports.com, or please subscribe as a reader subscriber. It's only a couple of bucks a month. We don't have a Patreon. I'm sorry. Maybe we'll get YouTube memberships at some point, but we're going to stream at least once a week, Thursday night, 9 p.m. Hope you'll be there, Rasmussen_poll, and subscribe to our other channel as well at Rasmussen_rewind. Thanks for watching. If you've learned something, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Follow us on X at Rasmussen_poll and myself at Honest Pollster. You can watch our videos on YouTube at Rasmussen_poll and Rasmussen_rewind, and on Rumble at Rasmussen Reports. We stream multiple times a week on Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, and Getter. Thanks for watching.